So, welcome everyone. We're just going to give you time to join. I know we've had loads of interest for this session. Some of you spent the evening with Ebony and I already yesterday talking about remote careers, and finances were things that came up time and time again. Got some fantastic guests with us this evening as well. And I know Liz from the Vet Mums community has said just how much this was at the forefront of discussions within that community as well. So we really hope there'll be some value for you all to take something back with you and take your next action step this evening as well. So we will dive in just a minute. I'm just going to give us about another 20 seconds or so, and then we can get started. But let us know in the chat box where you're dialing in from. Where is everyone joining us from? I know, Ebony, you are in Spain at the moment, aren't you?
I am indeed, although it's not very sunny today. I'm very cold. But yeah, that's great.
Amazing. We've got Manchester. Super. Right, I am going to switch the waiting room off. We've got Puerto Rico. Amazing.
Ooh, incredible.
Global audience this evening. Awesome. And lots of you will be catching up on the recording, of course, as well. So, shall we get started? And we wanted to have a bit of a chat to start with around how much this has been asked for and how you are not alone. If you are at a point where this is something that is coming up for you around career transitions, parenthood, navigating a health challenge or something that has been proactively planned in, whether that's redundancy, there are lots of different transitions in life. We know that. So I'm going to hand to Ebony, who's going to talk us through it a little bit from the Vet U mastermind. And then I know that we had some insights from other communities as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. And as well, just so that everyone feels comfortable too. I know Katie's going to go on more on this, but do make use of the chat as well. No such thing as a stupid question. Comments, questions, lived experience. We're here to learn from one another. We've got some experts in the room, but everyone's experiences and questions are valid. If you're thinking it, and guarantee I'm probably thinking it, and so will someone else. So please do utilize that. And if you want to ask anonymously, then you can DM any one of the panelists here, and we can throw up the question without your name. Okay. So we recently had a community mastermind at London Vet Show, which for those of you outside of the UK is one of the European biggest global veterinary conferences. And it gives an opportunity to come together online and in person and discuss things that are pertinent to us. And one of the things that people were really interested in were career transitions, and huge things that came up were around financial concerns in making that career shift. One of the primary motivations for wanting that career change was burnout and wanting family or lifestyle changes and reasons. And then a lot of the finances there worried about how can I sustain my life with the change in career? How am I going to sustain my income? And things around not sure how to price my services and others there. But I'd love to also hand over to Liz, because Liz was also helping to run with the veterinary mums community, another mastermind that came up with also some similar insights. So Liz, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ebony. So we hosted a career mastermind at London Vet Show. Thank you to all the Vet Mums community who attended that. And for clarity, Vet Mums isn't just for vets who are mums, it's for anyone in the veterinary community who is interested in the challenges around parenting in the profession. So there's lots of dads, there's lots of non-parents, there's lots of people who are not necessarily vets, but work in the wider sector. So a very inclusive community. Feel free to join. But we were talking about barriers to career progression as parents, and one of the key themes that came up entirely openly was around the finances. So a lot around the challenges of balancing financial pressures whilst having parental leave. So a lot of veterinary practices are still on sort of statutory maternity pay, which isn't great. And a lot of that around thinking about career progression and career pathways, childcare costs and all of the costs associated with being a parent. It is a huge financial commitment to be a parent as well. I haven't got figures off the top of my head, but I think there are some off the internet about the average cost of having kids, and it's enormous. And sort of thinking and factoring that into career decisions as well was a really significant thing for our community. So I think this is a particularly important topic for those who are parents or considering being parents, just to find that you stay afloat and you're considering this early rather than finding, you get into challenges unexpectedly.
Thank you, Liz, so much for sharing the insights there as well. And it sounds like this will be so useful for so many people, regardless of, like we say, what that transition looks like. So interesting that that's come up so many times. And lots of people are asking, is Vet Mums on Facebook? Absolutely, there is a group. Liz, I know you'll kindly drop the link in there as well so everyone can check out Vet Mums community too. So a little bit about VetU very briefly. I know lots of you have come across us before. At VetU, we are a group of vets that are really passionate about connecting you with your financial independence, helping you connect with trusted financial professionals like Ruth, who's one of the financial advisors we work alongside. She's on the call right now. We're excited to have her expertise. We focus on 3 different areas: helping protect your health, your income, and your future as well. Because we don't get taught this stuff at vet school. We don't get taught this stuff at nursing college. We don't get taught this stuff, whatever role you are within the profession, wherever you are in the world. So here we are helping connect you with people that are trained in those areas. So let us dive into what this session is all about. So I'm going to hand to Ebony to talk us through each of these points.
Yeah, so the whole point of this this collaborative series here with Veterinary Women is to really help break the stigma around money discussions and help level the playing field, gain the support that we need, and get the tangible tips to help us move forward and connect us with individuals and experts in the financial fields that can really help bolster our financial confidence and our bank balances. So, no stupid question, if you hear jargon or things you don't understand, call us out. We want to try and make this as simple as possible. So yeah, that's the first thing. So really want to try and create this safe space. And we really want to shine a light on common transitions and the financial concerns associated with them. What we'll find is whether we want to change career or start a family, yes, there are specifics within them, but anytime we're going through a new transition and having to brave the unknown and a new way of being, there's going to be some real commonalities that we can use from a financial point of view, right? So it's there to help us bring those tips for transitions, if you like, to the fore for us. And then we want to outline some options and some tactics for supporting those transitions that are both generic and specific. But as most of us will know, when it comes down to our own personal finances, we want to give specific advice. And that's when you need to hook up with one of our brilliant financial advisors, such as Ruth here. And if you're coming in from other countries, then we can look at that and give you food for thought to find out financial professionals in your area. And most importantly as well is really to have your questions answered. So don't wait till the end to get your questions in, pop them in the chat, whether it's anonymous or to the floor, and we will do our best to answer them. And if you're watching back, then do make sure to email us at hello@vetu.co.uk.
Thank you so much, Ebony. And we just wanted to be really clear about the space that we're holding here. So a few bits about how we roll in these sessions. First of all, just wanted to acknowledge that money can bring up a lot of feelings for a lot of people. And let's take any judgment off. If you feel that it's hard, you're not alone. If it excites you, you're not alone. If it's something that you think, I feel clueless, you are absolutely not alone. Let's be curious and ditch the judgment. This is the opportunity to say, that's really interesting. That's a challenge that I face, rather than it meaning anything about you as a human. Every question is valid. We cannot say this enough times. And Ebony said this already. If you are wondering it, someone else's as well, ask it, drop it in the chat box, message us, email afterwards. You honestly won't be the only one that's wondering that. So also respect that everyone's on their own path. There might be little bits or snippets where Ruth's or one of our panelists starts talking about a certain area and you think, oh, this doesn't apply to me. That's okay. There will be bits that do. Take what you need, leave what doesn't resonate, and also realize there might be people asking questions that make you think, oh my gosh, they're so much further down the line than I am. That's okay. Everyone's on their own path with this, and vice versa. And always ask for help. Please do. We know in these sessions, Ruth, as a financial professional, can give top line advice. She can give insights, but she can't give things very specific to you without knowing your unique circumstances. So none of this is financial advice, in the same way that if we hosted a webinar for our clients on a veterinary related topic, if they asked us about their cat or their dog or their horse, whatever that looked like, we couldn't tell them the specifics without knowing the whole background to be able to do that. So let's dive in really briefly. We're talking about transitions, and you've touched a bit on this already, Ebony, but do you want to just really like clear the ground on what we're talking about? Because we want everyone to feel included here.
Sorry. I think firstly, actually, really good before I do that and while I chat, maybe just pop into the chat box what kind of transitions you're maybe preparing for or you're currently in or you've just made. Because I think it would be nice to see who's here live that we can support more specifically in terms of transitions. You might be moving country, preparing to make changes in your family, you might be moving house. You might be thinking about making career moves, or maybe you're wanting to add a side hustle into your portfolio. You might be preparing for some difficult surgery, or you might be just wanting to think, I want to prepare in case the worst does happen. So there's just so many different types of transitions that we can experience, and sometimes we have to experience them all together at once. So I remember last year I had to moving country and having some difficulty with career and health, and the more prepared we can be, the better. I think that's one of the biggest things, if you take nothing away from this talk, is that preparation. So just in the chat here, just having a look at what people are doing. Latest transition, perimenopause, which is a huge thing, and how we can actually, as women and as other genders, help support and prepare for that. And it does impact career for many. And Liz and the team at Vet Mums have got some really, really good resources on that. So we'll signpost you for those as well and add that into the follow-up email. Moving from London to Scotland, preparing to buy my first house. That's a huge financial implication, and well done, congratulations. A new graduate, so starting their career, getting on that career ladder, and hoping to switch into partially or fully into a whole different area, so like conservation. New partner plus child and going to uni. So here you can see the variety of transitions here, and they could be big, they could be small, they could be multiple. So all are welcome here.
Love that. And I can see we've just had pop in, moving from Scotland to somewhere else in England as well. Thank you for sharing that too. So when we were preparing for this session, we thought really hard about how we can structure this, because you're all unique and we only have an hour. And we really want to make sure that our amazing panel can bring some context to this and some expertise, but every transition comes down to 3 parts, was how we managed to distill this down. We've got the preparation stage, which is the time before the actual transition. How and where can we be proactive? Yes, let's also be real. Sometimes we don't get that much time to prep, but many times we do. I know Ebony had a really good conversation with Ruth ahead of this session, and I know Ruth mentioned that often this preparation stage is sometimes missed or not considered. And we hope by the end of this session, as Ebony said, that you will absolutely take advantage of this. We've then got the middle part, which is that transition stage, like the actual, I want to call it the messy middle, but actually it's more of a state of flux, because there might be a lot of changes, there might be maybe less income coming in, there might be some cutbacks that you make, there might be some uncertainty in there and some time to really look after you. But there are things that we can do to look after your finances as well as you in that time. And then we've got the new normal. We've got navigating and understanding the new situation, and understanding that might be more money, that might be less money, that might be changing some of the financial products and policies that you've got. But every transition that we have in life is going to have stages like this. And I think what we've also got to bear in mind here is that every stage and transition will look different for different people at different times. Sometimes you might have minimal prep time and a long transition. Other times it might be that you've got huge amounts of preparation, the transition period's really short. But the reality is, through life, we are going to keep changing and having transition periods, sometimes times to prepare, sometimes times to change, and sometimes to find that new normal. So I'm sure that you have all started to identify, as you beautifully shared in the chat now already, some of the stages that you might be at and the transitions that you might be making. But we wanted to give some examples and some context to this. There's no right or wrong. It's about you understanding, where am I at? Am I in a preparation stage? Am I in like the transition period in between, trying to figure out getting towards the next step whilst looking after me? Or is it that I'm trying to figure out this new normal? So a few examples, it might be in family life that the preparation stage is planning for or during pregnancy or adoption or IVF. The transition is during maternity or paternity or adoption leave, and the new normal is returning to work. We've got the If it is that maybe you're changing careers, it might be that you've made the decision to change your career is the preparation stage, working the notice period is prep, transition is that gap between the jobs, perhaps it's taking a sabbatical, perhaps it's going traveling for a little bit between jobs, and then finding your new normal in that new role. And finally, just another example, chronic ill health wise might be you've got an op that you've planned for, you're leading up to a surgery, you've got a recovery period. Maybe it's that you've got so much support from your employer to an extent, but you might have to look at budgeting for further down the line, and then returning to work with or without reasonable adjustments. So I can see we've had lots of good chats around what some of the biggest concerns about transitions are. And please do keep sharing those. We've had things about unpredictability and uncertainty, stress. So please keep sharing those as well. So we're going to start diving into these. We're going to be going to our expert panel. I'm going to hand to Ebony to do some introductions, and then everyone is going to tell us a little bit more about themselves. Ebony.
Yeah, we're super, super lucky to have these three powerhouses with us who bring so much amazing lived experience, as well as financial expertise as well. So I just want to ask each of you just to give like a 2-minute intro to yourself and explain some of the transitions you might have navigated, maybe some pre, some during, and some new normal, because I know you've all got varied career transitions as well as lifestyle and health transitions too. So Liz, I want to come to you first.
Yeah, thanks. I'm definitely in the lived experience rather than the financial nous powerhouse category. So the biggest transitions for me is I'm a vet. I started in mixed practice and then I did a small animal internship. So the change in time and finance that required before moving into small animal practice. Also a couple of periods of parental leave and that sort of big change of becoming a mum. And then sort of transition back into work from coming back from parental leave, but then the sort of mix of starting to mix clinical with non-clinical work. So founding Vet Mums and WellVet as a not-for-profit. All of the changes around upskilling and developing a sort of diversified career there. Then COVID, the challenge of transition of homeschool, remote working. I then moved to 100% non-clinical work as my clinical work dried up as I was locuming. So I was the sort of last in, first out. And now I'm back into working full-time non-clinical as head of communications for Vet CT. So that's been pretty stable for the last 3 years. And just as I reach that period of stability, as I mentioned in the chat, I'm now facing the sort of challenges around perimenopause, which has a lot of parallels with chronic illness, but just around that sort of unpredictability and navigating that alongside career and financial implications of career development. So that's me.
Thank you, Liz. And if you could just ponder on this one, I'll go through and introduce everyone and think about this question. You know, in hindsight, some of those big transitions and small transitions that you've experienced, what has been the one piece of advice that's helped in that transition? So have a think about that, and I'll ask everyone else their background as well. So Ruth, coming to you, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I guess I'm coming at it from the financial aspect as well. I've worked with the amazing VetU for many years now, and I absolutely love helping the community. And I've helped lots of people have career breaks. I've helped lots of people, go full time into their side hustles or do further training, move house, you name it. I've done it. Unfortunately, more recently, it's been helping people through some redundancies and things that have come up. Once again, the unpredictability that came up in the chat is such a huge one, and trying to help people navigate through that and have a sense of, instead of going in a spiral, giving a sense of direction and how to help plan for that. Personally, myself, obviously, it's something that I've gone through something. I was employed and then went self-employed. And then as of December, my actual own financial company, Truth Financial, was born. So that's obviously had quite a lot of planning behind it, and things that I've been prepping for this for I'd say probably nearly a year. And when I was thinking about what Katie, you were saying earlier about the preparation and that not many people look at that, it's actually if you think of an iceberg and you've got that little bit at the top, that's the decision of making to go. What is underneath with the iceberg is all of the preparation that you can do behind the scenes that will give you power, and also the confidence to know that this is the right decision and that you have the backing of what you need. So you name it, I've seen it. And I've helped people through it, and it's a pleasure to help guide anyone else through it as well.
Thank you, Ruth. And finally, Fee, how about you?
Yeah, hi. So I would say my periods of transition aren't too dissimilar from Liz's in sense of being a vet from clinical roles and going into non-clinical, and a parenting journey as well. Some of my transitions have been thrust upon me, some have been more considered. When I met my now husband, I instantly became a stepmom on meeting him at day one. So that was something that instantly made me have to change my life quite considerably. Going on to then become a mum of my own boys was a more thought out process. So I guess that sort of is one way to highlight how similar end results can have different preparation periods and different transition periods. From a working role, I'm an equine vet. I've been in equine practice for over 10 years before moving out into non-clinical roles. And I think when I sort of look back on it, none of it was particularly well planned. You could say it all just sort of happened, but I think that would probably also be doing a bit of a disservice to the things I've done along the way. And I think I've never really truly considered any of the steps I've taken in a big master plan. I've always just done things that felt right at the time. Like I was really interested in business, so I did a lot of business courses. I'm interested in finance. I went and taught myself about that. And that, I think, has set me in good stead for then when things crop up that I can be in a position to take them. It wouldn't have been, that's been a 10-year planning process. And I think probably as vets, we're all very good at that, thinking on our feet and of being quite resilient and being able to jump in and do things as they go. And I think what has enabled me to do that is having the safety net of being a vet. I still locum now. I locum 1 day a week, and I think I enjoy that. It's probably the absolute limit of clinical work that I could maintain at this point in my life. But knowing that there's a safety net of going back into vetting, which from a financial point of view is always going to be something that's going to get you out of the pickle if you need it in the short term, has then sort of enabled me to be slightly brave of other decisions. So I work at Companion Consultancy. I joined there 4 years ago, and the recent transition there is becoming director of the company, which I don't think I would ever have imagined happening when I first joined. But here we are doing that now, which is fun. But I've also done lots of other non-vet related businesses along the way, because had a punt, given it a go. It's been something that's been good fun. I've had support of my husband, had support of my family, and I think it's just a bit of luck, a bit of work, a bit of grafting, a bit of the right opportunities coming up at the right time. I think it's interesting that graph you had about transition into new normal, and I don't ever really think we hit a new normal. I mean, I'm quite a restless soul myself. I never can stay still doing one thing for too long. I think we're always doing something. Like life, for me personally, life never stays the same. From 1 month to the next. I mean, having a mild midlife crisis at 10, 40s, now I've decided I'm going to go run a marathon. So I somehow now fit that into my life. Everything's changing all the time. It's always new challenges, and somehow life changes to accommodate it all. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for those really good and candid reflections. I think, yeah, change is the only constant and everything is impermanent. And if we can embrace that, then, the uncertainty and unpredictability, yeah, we can kind of weather that storm. But Liz, just one reflection from you in terms of with hindsight. Fee's given quite a lot of lovely hindsight there and reflections. What would be your one piece of advice for transition, or, if I could tell my younger self, what would it be?
Talk about it, I think, is a really key one. It is a taboo subject, money and finance. There are lots of platforms where we can now talk about things anonymously. But I had really big challenges around knowing my value, understanding my value, communicating my value. A lot of that is a kind of coming from me piece. And I think it's only now having those conversations, seeing those conversations happen, that I understand more how to value myself. And obviously that has big sort of financial implications. Cumulatively, I think that's the really key thing to take home, is the cumulative impact over our lifetime. Sort of really hitting home now. I'm in the latter part of my 40s.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's very, very wise words. Right, so Ruth, let's get on to some tips and tricks when it comes to prep.
So absolutely. So this will be more of a kind of a broad overview, because I understand that everybody's situation is different. But if you can, this would what I would recommend as a starting point. So the preparation side, it is absolutely key if you can, and if you're fortunate enough to have that time to prepare. I can't stress it enough. It's kind of like, what do you want to achieve? What is going to kind of bring you happiness? Where are you at, and where are your goals? And Ebony, I don't know whether it's worth sticking in the chat, if you've got it, that little kind of sheet.
Financial health checker. I will pop the financial health checker in.
Yeah, and also the goal setting one, about what is it that you want to do, what is your kind of SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, with looking at where you. When we say financial baseline, it's looking at your outgoings, so what you've got going out in a month, and it's looking at what you currently have incoming, and you look at your situation with where you are now. So if you're employed, look at it if you are employed. How much is that giving you? And then I would stress to have a look at your outgoings and go, right, where can I potentially make any savings here, if possible? If something drastic happened that you were unprepared for, that unpredictability factor, how could I immediately cut back to make sure that I could make as many savings as possible? That financial questionnaire that, you know, is there for you. I mean, you can use whatever you want. You can put it on paper, you can write it on your phone. I don't mind, as long as you know what you have and where it goes. So you make savings. Maybe if you have like 2 takeaways a week, you could maybe go down to 1 takeaway a week. If you happen to go out and meet people for coffees and chats and end up having like lunch or cakes, maybe you could, you know, sort another way to do that, where you're not spending as much. It's ways of going, right, I could save money here, and that's what I could do. And looking at the bare minimum of what we call essential expenditure. So that's the thing that keeps the lights on in the house. So, you know, the gas, the electric, you know, the heating, whatever that may be. And just know that is the bare minimum that I need to keep myself sufficient. Define your priorities. What is it that you want to achieve? Like anything in life, I would love to put, like, you know, £1,000 into my pension a month, £1,000 into a savings per month, you know, £1,000 fund that I could use. But it all comes down to what I have coming in and what my goals are. So when I was prepping to set up my company, it was like, okay, I know that when I set my company up, I am going to have quite a few months of, you know, of it being lean months, because it's going to take me time to build those relationships with clients. It's going to take time, you know, for that work to come in. So I didn't go out and, you know, if anyone's on my social media, you don't see pictures of me out and about every single, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or doing something, because I knew I had to cut back to make savings to fund my goal and to fund my dream. And I did everything I could to do that. You know, research costs and implications of the upcoming change. Speak to people that you know in the sectors. Like I had a few people go from being small animal vets to maybe becoming, you know, going into, you know, like farm animals. So speak to people who can help you. What is it like? You know, how much does it bring in? How long does it take them to get started? Absolutely look at everything you can. When I went to do this, I spoke to as many independent financial advisors I could, because I went from a restricted background into being obviously independent, which is whole of market, and it is you know, it is completely different. What did I have to do to you know, prepare myself for that? what did I have to have as funds set aside? So I hope you don't mind me being like, I don't mind sharing my story to tell you what I've been through, because it does all relate as well to anything that you want to achieve. So do as much research as you can, speak to as many people as you can, look online. How much does it cost to, to get any free qualifications? So for me, when I looked at it, I could do a grief course free, but I know that that is going to help a lot of my clients who come to me that are in, certain, unfortunate circumstances, and I can help them through that. So I went and did that course knowing it's something that I could take with me when I left and became independent. What do you have available to you? Check existing policies and work benefits. What is being given to you free at the minute? Because bear in mind that if you are in an employed role and then you go off on your own, that won't be there anymore. So if you manage, you're fortunate enough to say get a month's sick pay, then this is where you've got to know and start prepping this in to go, that won't be there anymore. You then have to look at how much it would cost. And once again, that's free. The only thing it does is your time to research how much it would be to get protection, like income protection, life insurance, and we will come on to that later. But look at what you have right now and then look at that gap to find out how you can bridge it once you take on your next role. Assemble your support system. So part of my support system was VetU, because they were people that have been there with me right from the start. So I included them on my journey and I told them, exactly what I was going to do, what I was thinking. Is there any way that I could help them? Was there going to be any gaps where I wouldn't be able to help clients? I included them in on the whole journey. If it's family that can support you, speak to them, tell them so that they can get excited. They can start telling their friends, about what you're doing to help maybe drum up some business or whatever it might be in the industry that you want to go into. And then proactively plan any additional income options that you have. Is there anything else that you could do? Like for me, it's like I could give advice, yes, and I can speak to people and set pensions up and investments and protection. But actually, I can also write articles for any publications and go, actually, do people want to know what the changes in the budget are? So pivot, find out what it is that you can do and where else you could potentially earn a bit of money to help bring something in, to help bridge that gap. So yeah, if you can and you're fortunate enough to be able to plan before you make that move, then definitely make as many preparations as you can. And with the financial questionnaire, whilst you're filling it in, say now once you're employed, fill it in again when you're not. So try and do a bit of future planning and go, right, well, I'm not going to have this income. I'd probably have this if I brought it in. And then look at where you could cut back on some of that expenditure to make sure, so your monthly spending, to make sure that, yes, you can save wherever you can to help support that dream. So yeah, I've kind of talked through that, what could help prepare for changes in family life, preparation and budgeting, knowing what's where. Yeah, Ebony, you're going to say something?
No, I just, no, carry on.
Yeah, so how can I be, I think when it comes to kind of prep for changes in family life, are we talking about if, say, like, I love it when people have questions, so ask me anything that might kind of come to mind, like what would I do if I'm looking to start a family? Because I've had people that are in their 20s come to me and say, I'm not sure about the future, whether I want kids, whether I don't, but I would like to start saving for a fund. So they actually set up a small fund now for IVF, just in case that's something in their future that we all know is very expensive, that they might need, whether it's freezing their eggs, whether it's something when they have a partner that they want to do. So I actually have someone saving for that right now, even they haven't got a partner, they're not sure what the future holds, because they're trying to make those savings. Don't spend absolutely everything that you've got if it's a possibility. Try and keep something aside just in case for that uncertainty, because the peace of mind that it will give you is priceless, to know that you can make that preparation. So yeah, how can I be financially proactive in the preparation stages? I've said, write it down, write your goals down, put it down, what it is you want to achieve, how you're going to get there, what you're planning to do, who you can speak to. I'm getting excited because it is such an exciting thing to do. It's not all scary. It's the most liberating and fruitful thing that you could do to follow a passion and make that dream a reality. Life is too short, so do everything you can to put it down and then revisit it. Could I do something different there? Is there something else that could help me reach that goal? So yes, that's what I'd say.
Thank you.
Preparation.
We've got some anonymous questions coming in. I'm on maternity leave and I really worry about childcare and affording that. Any tips?
Yeah, so maternity, if they wouldn't mind saying, is there a partner, and are they on their own? Because it's definitely worth having a look at what else is out there. So are there any is there any kind of government that they could have to help with like childcare? When they go back to work, does the partner earn more than £50,000? Because actually childcare funding starts reducing if one of the partners is over £50,000. But there are clever ways to get around that, such as potential pension contributions. So look at what is available for you.
So just Ruth, just for clarifying that, so if you can actually get around having more support if essentially someone's on a higher salary over 50, if they add
Yes.
more to their pension contribution and essentially bring down their salary, then you get access to
to the full amount. So there are clever tips. That's why I was just say, just get a best financial friend, someone it's going to cost you. Call up, ask a bit of advice. What do I do? You've all been fantastic. Come on, ask questions, because I couldn't come into your job and do what you do for any of that. And trust me, you don't want me to. But at the same point, you couldn't come into my job and do what I do. I know all the little hints and tips which can help give you more money to help with things like childcare or any unexpected costs like that. And something whilst we're on that is pensions. So for a lot of obviously women that aren't working, they're not saving into their pensions during that time, but maybe their partners are. So there are some things that you can do that will help, and always be aware of what is going in, so that you can have that conversation with your partner to say, okay, if we're going to start a family, I need to make sure that what I'm sacrificing in pension contributions is still going. We're going to account for that. It might be.
That's great.
There's lots of different ways that you can have a look.
Thank you. And Liz, I know you want to add to that, and I have a question for Fee. So yeah, Liz, do you want to add on that childcare tip?
Yeah, so just coming back to what Ruth was talking about with the childcare benefits you get from the government, because I was on maternity leave and my husband is self-employed, and he was earning over 50,000, it actually worked for him to effectively salary me to do his admin, which, to be fair, I was actually doing his admin, but we had to then work it out, because it then costed, we went through an accountant who did the employment side of things for us, so we worked out that there would be an overall gain for him employing me effectively a few hours a week, which meant that we were then eligible for the full amount of the childcare benefits. So that was just one interesting personal learning that I had, which I only learned from speaking to a financial advisor who sort of pointed that out to us.
And a good accountant, yes, who can recommend, putting you on the books, which helps. So very, very great advice there.
And Fee, how are you, again, maybe you want to pick one of the things that Ruth has covered here in terms of what's done for you. But I was also interested in you saying you're locoming as well as, having your job. How are you kind of handling those two kind of income streams? I'm assuming one being self-employed and one employed.
Yes, so I get really nervous about spending money that's not mine. So it all goes into a completely different bank account, everything from locally. It's almost like I don't earn that money until I do my tax return, and I know what I've got left, which I can then use for what I need to do. So it all sits in a nice high interest account while it's not, well, until I know what's mine, and then divvy it across. And there's probably more, there are probably savvier ways I could be doing that, but for me, and just for how busy our lives are, and my husband's got his own business as well, so we sort of have to consider that. That for me, I've only been doing this for just over a year, so that just seems like the safest place to put that money, so I don't accidentally spend it and then have a big tax bill that I can't pay. And with regards to then going over the threshold, that is something that both John and I have considered, and we manage that with our own our pension contribution. So it's something we are aware of. I did have one point that I wanted to say just on what you were talking about, Ruth, because it was all absolutely amazing. But I think one of the things that I see, you probably have more insight to this, Ebony, that you see it time and time again, that people wanting to do something and not knowing what it is that they want to do. And that was sort of the first thing you mentioned, they figure out what you're good at, what it is you want to do, what's your dream. I don't think anyone knows that. I didn't land in the role I am now by knowing that I wanted to go and do PR, because I didn't know I wanted to go and do PR. So I think almost doing some of the stuff you spoke about later, about doing the free courses, getting a bit of experience in different areas, that should almost come first. And I think once you start doing those things, more opportunities open up. Because I think it's a really, for me, I think that is the biggest barrier to transition of career, of being like, oh, I'm a vet, what else do I do? What else is available? So I think actually there is lots available, but you sort of have to trial and error and do that in conjunction of still working your normal job, so you've still got your consistency and your salary coming in, but at the same time you're exploring different avenues, so that when you do then come to want to move over, you can then go through everything that you're explaining really well.
I really like that. It's very, very important about that. We did a whole session last night, Katie and I, on this. So I've just put the link that if you want to register for the replay, about how you can actually think about your themes and functions and how you experiment and try. And, you know, you can't, overthinking isn't going to get you any closer to the next phase or the next transition. So clarity comes through action. So yeah, we've popped that link in there, and we'll share it in the email to the ones that are watching.
It's so true, because if you don't mind me saying, it's like, what sparks joy, you know? And you don't have, one of my biggest, I think, pressures when I was in my 20s is, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm meant to do? I went to university, you know, I got a degree, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something to help and be with people. And it wasn't, I don't want to give away my age, but it wasn't until mid-30s that I actually found my calling, which is doing this. And it was because, you know, my mum fell ill in Cape Town, and I couldn't get financial advice at that time, because I told I wasn't going to understand it in the time frame, and also it wasn't worth their time because I had nothing to invest. Now that really grinded my gears, so I came back and completely retrained to do this, so that no one would ever feel like I did at that time. But that's what sparked my joy, and that's what led me to do this. And then obviously working with VetU and helping others to, you know, to figure out their finances and to make handy tax saving tips that brings more money to their households, it does bring me a lot of joy. So just have a look and think, what is it that I might want to try and do? And then speak to people, you know, speak to people that do that job and go, what's it like? Tell me the honest truth. Like, I went to independent financial advisors, and I said, tell me the worst things about the job. What is it that I need to prepare for when I do this? And they were like, you need to prepare and have a year's salary available to you, because don't think that something's going to come in straight away. That is a lot to try and save up. But I'm so glad that I was given that honest advice, because I could prep and I could prepare.
Thank you so much. Really great reflection. So, Katie, shall we move on to the next phase? I'll let you take over the reins.
Yeah, transition. So this is where we've come now into the transition stage. You've decided to do something. track everything. It's going to be a new, like you said, the new norm. It's kind of track expenses. How much is going out? What's that going on? Is there anywhere where potentially, once again, you might be able to make savings? I had a couple of outgoings that I spent in a setup that actually I look back on now and think, oh, I didn't necessarily need that, but I'm not shooting myself in the foot about it. I'm going, okay, that's absolutely fine. I didn't know at the time, I know now, so that I don't make that mistake again when I'm doing something. Regularly and proactively review that budget. So important. Keep going back to it. Has my expenses changed? Like if you were working from an office, now you're working at home. Silly things like, is your water bill gone up from flushing your toilet more? It's all costs that go up, because that was one crazy thing that I noticed from working at home more. Or is it that your electric's on a lot more because you're working from home? But then you might save on food costs because you can prep food at home instead of actually buying something when you're out and about. So review that budget, look at where the savings are, and once again, see if there is anything that you can make savings on. Communicate openly with others, share your journey. People want to help, and if you tell them what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, just see what comes up, because you never know that support system that's behind you. Reassess additional support options as necessary. So keep looking at other ways where you might be able to further your business, get more knowledge, get more qualifications under your belt. Use those support systems that are around you. And like I said, revisit any additional income options that might come from it. So like I've said about writing a blog or speaking to different publications about finance, people always want to. So what would help during transition stages in family life? I think it's having something that comes up when people have families is review the protection that you have. Your family is your world. When people have families, something that's often forgotten from a protection side is something called family income benefit. I don't know if any of the mums on the on the call today have heard of that, but it's actually family income benefit is if you have a significant other that helps pay for your bills. What family income benefit can do is quite a small cost for insurance in comparison to all of them, because it's got a fancy name called decreasing term assurance policy. But it means that as the policy goes on, it's like the less it will pay out, because you might be paying for your partner's income to pay if something should happen to them up until the child is 18, 21, 23, 25, whatever you set it at. But should anything happen to your significant other where they lose that income coming in, this family income benefit could provide that spare income. And it's such a cheap policy. It really is one of the cheapest that you can get. So it's looking at things that would give you that peace of mind coverage. I keep saying it, I would rather my clients have it and not need it than the other way around, where they need it and not have it, because you can't kind of do anything after the horse has bolted. So it's definitely something to consider and look at how you feel. So Liz, Fiona, look at how you're feeling, going, what would give me more peace of mind right now for my current circumstances? What is that? Knowing that your family's protected, knowing that you've got a buffer should the unpredictable happen. Everybody is different, absolutely everybody. So we look at that, and then we can help put something in place to relieve that kind of fear that you might have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Liz. Don't you just want to share what you've just shared in the chat in terms of the figures, and then I've got an anonymous question.
Yeah, I was just Googling it because I know we'd sort of alluded to it earlier, but there are a few sort of figures out there. This one was in the Times Money Mentor, just, the average cost of raising a child to 18 is about £223,000 in the UK. Actually, they say it's more for a single parent. So yeah, and obviously the costs will vary wildly at sort of different ages and stages and between different families, but I think you can just see there the financial impact it does have.
Yep. Yeah, really is.
There is a huge financial impact, but I've seen it from people that have prepared nothing, and have nothing in place and have, fallen pregnant. You find a way. So don't let
Yeah.
that put you off having a family or anything, because yes, it is expensive, but there's lots of different ways to do it. You can go to they can go to public school instead of private school. There's lots of different ways where you can find a way if that unexpected happens and you haven't planned for it, and you are pregnant.
Yeah, and I love it. Fee's just answered your quest. Fee, you can share it. What have you just replied to? What have you just replied,
I
Fee?
wish I hadn't seen that figure. Actually, that would give me more peace of mind, not knowing how much.
Yeah, sorry for that, everyone. But I just to echo what Ruth said, absolutely, like having a family is not a financial decision first. There is a lot of support you can get, but I think just being aware that financial planning proactively is superbly helpful in this, and to maybe consider doing it sooner rather than later. And obviously these costs, I don't know exactly what goes into them, but that will be, as you say, the full spectrum, from the people that send all of their children to private school, through to the people that get a lot of financial support in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. We also asked this question on Vetstigger Diversify as well, and this is a couple of replies I thought would be helpful, and then I've got an anonymous question that I'd like to put to the panel. Someone here said around setting up multiple bank accounts with automatic payment set up from myself and my partner's accounts as soon as we get paid, so we calculate how much the kids' known expenses were. No, not unknown. The known expenses were per year: swimming, sports, Christmas presents, shoes, because you need a lot of shoes as they grow, right? And so that we always had those available. It didn't come as a shock because it came out first. I think it's a little bit what Fee was talking about when it comes to her locuming. And a lot of other people saying, I'm just so glad that my financial advisor taught me about an emergency fund when I was still healthy and earning money. I wish I'd known about income protection sooner. I've got some more on careers in a minute, but I thought I'll just share the anonymous question, and then we can come back to some of these other great tips that the community have shared. And this is an anonymous question, so I hear a lot. I've suddenly found myself in a position where I can only afford the basics, even when minimizing expenses. Like, I've done the due diligence of going through everything, yeah? I really want to change my career, but there's nothing I can cut back without sacrificing my family and what they need, and it's really getting me down.
Shame, yeah, that's it is a tough one, and I do have people that are in that position, and unfortunately the only thing is it's to have a look and see. I think we were having this conversation the other day, Ebony, is look to move potentially to something that is going to pay you more. Like back in the day, I remember that when I was employed, I moved jobs, I think twice in a year, but automatically it gave me a 10 grand pay rise, even though I was doing exactly the same job, but just from a different company. Because for some reason, when you move jobs, they automatically think you've got more experience and that you've gained more from that. And I'm not saying to everyone, just quit your job, by the way, and go and, go and look at getting another one. But I'm just saying, if you are really struggling and where you are isn't paying you to help have a proper living or life, and it's worrying you, look to see what another role, that the same role that you're doing in another company is paying. It might be more. That other job might be offering say protection benefits, where it'll pay sick pay, or it might pay life insurance if something happened, which then means if you do go to that job, yes, you might not be earning more if it's paying the same, but you would be saving on the protection side. So there's lots of different ways that you could maybe have a look at it. Like, is there a side hustle that you could do that is a passion that that you could maybe start on the side, whether it's writing a book, creating jewelry. I mean, these are just some of the examples of people that I know that have done that, or whether it's in the veterinary profession itself. There's all kinds of different things that you could maybe have a look at.
And I'll ask Fee to comment on this, but I think one thing I know that sometimes difficult, you know, we say that obviously locuming is a really good thing we've all got in our back pocket if we are a veterinary surgeon or a veterinary nurse. But when we've got a family or other dependents, sometimes doing that, we haven't got the time to be away from our family and caring. In the past, when I've been in that position, I've tried to create an entrepreneurial mindset. So not about going anywhere else and getting a job, staying where I am and saying, I've seen the following things that could be improved. Maybe it's how you're doing your insurance claims, your social media is really poor. I want to start a newsletter. And I took on pitched roles I could do in my own time, asynchronously when you know, when my mum was okay and I didn't have to look after her or whatever. And I could do those bits of work and earn money, like remotely, for the job I already am in clinically. So it's things like that that can sometimes help. But Fee, I know because you've been balancing that in the past, what would be your advice to this anonymous poster?
Oh, it's horribly hard, isn't it? When you feel stuck like that and not sure where to turn for it. And I think without knowing the full situation, it's hard to give advice. I think if locuming is an option, it's a nice one. Are there any weekend shifts you can pick up at neighbouring practices or elsewhere? Obviously, there's the whole issue of going to locum at different practice that's not your own that would need to be navigated. And then obviously, if locuming was something you did, it's just bearing in mind that you do need to keep your tax allowance aside so that you can't just spend it all as it comes in. Upskilling is always something you can do. Side hustles are always something you can do. I mean, when I was on my first mat leave and mat pay was pretty low, that's what sort of pushed me into starting my first little business, and it ended up growing beyond what I thought it would be, and I didn't go back to practice after that one. So I think often, even when we feel like there's no way out, that can be something to push you into trying something else and seeing what fits. And it is hard, isn't it? Because you don't want to cut back so much that life becomes thoroughly unenjoyable and difficult beyond what it already is, because life is just horribly expensive at the moment. Talking to your employees, asking them if they're, you know, explaining the situation, explaining that you might need to go elsewhere unless things change, and seeing if there's any flexibleness in any extra shifts, any extra hours you can do. We have some people that work in our company that they want to increase their salary slightly, so they'll ask if they can work, you know, even if it's an extra half an hour per day, you know, over the course of a month. That all adds up. There's often ways you can look into what you've already got to see if you can expand on that. But yeah, it is horribly difficult. I think short of upping and moving elsewhere where you're getting significantly more, trying to get out little bits where you are can be quite tricky.
Yeah, it really can. But if that anonymous poster wants to contact you and Ruth, then you know, I'm sure there are also ways we can understand your needs more specifically. And also, don't forget about negotiation. You know, if you head into the VetU YouTube channel, we've got some amazing watchbacks, some really good tangible tips on how to get comfortable with negotiation as well, and to even negotiate where you are in your salary too. Really important thing to get comfortable with. I think negotiating in general, whether it's for, you know, tasks in a relationship right through to income, I think having the transferable skill of good negotiation will take you a long way. Let's move on to you know, navigating the new normal, and then we'll again get your questions in as we start to wrap up, and we'll give you some more actions that you can take and more resources. But let's have a look here at navigating your new normal. Ruth.
I've just got to say, I loved that. I laughed when I can't remember who said it, but it was, is there ever a new normal? There's never a normal, is there? It's just, yes, it's you evolving. One thing sure in life is always change. When you said, Ebony, what is the one, you know, the one thing that you could say or advice for people that are looking to make a change, it's that be prepared to adapt to whatever the circumstances are, and pivot, because life will throw curveballs at you, and you know, at the the worst moments possible, and you just have to kind of go, right, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with it, this is what I'm going to do. Get back to that budget. review it, look again. Circumstances change. You might be making extra savings somewhere. You might have taken up a separate hobby or a, you know, or something that there is more outgoings by upskilling or something. And then look at your goals, what it is that you want to achieve. Are you on track for it? Always have it written down where you can look and monitor and change it if necessary, and reassess those policies for yourself and others. Because when people, you know, when you might be earning more, if you're blessed that, you know, that side hustle is becoming a lot more successful, is your protection reflecting that? Now, I'm not saying cancel your protection, but potentially you could look at it to then take extra out on top of it to make sure that yourself and your family are all covered. Like I was talking about the income protection, and family income benefit for people that have children. That is something that's not just you, it covers your family should something happen. Yeah, and just keep reassessing it. What can help set me up for success in my, yeah, we've talked all about that. Make sure you have that buffer available. Make sure you look at any government, say, grants or loans that are going for your specific industry. That's a huge one. I was chatting to someone today who was saying, I didn't know that actually there was like, I think for their sector was like over £150,000 that was given out to certain businesses that were developing in her area. And I thought that's incredible. The £5,000 business startup loan. There are options out there. Just look, research, and yeah, and do what you can to bring your goal to a reality.
Yeah. Katie, I don't know if you want to add anything here.
Hello. Yes, sorry, I was just in the chat having a look through everything as well, and love the conversations around, you know, we are constantly evolving, and I think everything that we've covered makes total sense. I know you've also said, Ruth, when we've had conversations about like transitioning from one role to the other, you said about, do we want to up that protection? Do we want to have a discussion if maybe our role has changed around that as well? So it's just, as we've said, acknowledging that we are going to be constantly changing, but having a finger on the pulse as to what needs to change as those things change. So loved listening to
If
these.
we want the beans, guys.
I'm just going to, there she is. She's back. I was like, magic beans? What's
So-
on
I'm
offer
so
right now?
I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm cooking in the background and the alarm's just gone off. So I just, and I thought I'd mute myself, but I hadn't. So apologies for that.
No worries,
And don't worry,
everyone.
it's not baked beans. These are black beans. It's my grandma's recipe, and it's a very good way to save money by prepping these beans. I have my weekly portion that I make every week. See, that's food prep.
Oh, amazing. I did want to say, Katie, just whilst we've got that little bit of a break, is to say one thing I didn't mention is if you are changing roles and you have got protection, please speak to your provider and check that that protection is covered for your current role, because it might not be. We don't want to give these insurance companies any opportunity not to pay out, and often it will cover you not working for your specific role, whereas if you change industries or do something different, then that finance might, you know, that protection will change. So we please just always make sure that you check that with any existing policies.
Yeah. And a personal reflection, you know, as I've been through a lot of transitions, moved from full-time employment when I took out my income protection, and then was self-employed and started my own business. And you know what, at that point, I wasn't part of VetU. I didn't know any of this. I didn't actually contact my income protection insurance company at all. I didn't know anything about it. And when I came to claim, they said, actually, you've probably during that transition period been overinsured. And also I was still covered. I had to go through and send them like my personal tax return and business finances and things to make sure that I got something from it. But I probably paid more than I needed to do for a while because I was more protected than I needed to be. And I just didn't know to have a conversation with them and to talk about it either. So many useful insights. We've looked at those 3 stages, knowing that they all blur into one. what does the prep stage look like? What can we do in that stage? How can we support everyone at whatever that looks like during the transition? And now we're navigating whatever normal is, like that situation that you have now found yourself in. How do you find your feet in there? And the next thing that we just wanted to cover really briefly, because we're aware of everyone's time, is Ruth, did you want to do a quick recap for everyone on some of these key protection policies? Because some of you might have heard of income protection, for example, before. Some of you might not have done, especially things like life insurance if you've got families. I know these are important topics. So should we do a quick 2-minute rundown of each one, just if anyone would like some myth busting, because these are all useful for us to bear in mind at any transition period.
Absolutely. So income protection, that will protect your income should you be off sick or injured. And it's usually up to a percentage of your income. So it could be 75% of your salary. Obviously, the more you go up to the 75%, then obviously the more it's going to cost you in kind of payments per month to have that protection policy. But yeah, if you are off sick or injured for whatever reason, it will pay up to 75% of your income and keep paying it, and you can get that up until retirement age. So if you go off now and then you sadly don't recover, then it could continue to pay that amount up until retirement. So it's the first thing that I have a look at when I speak to people to see is there something that's going to help pay their bills should they be off sick or injured. Life insurance is more so if you have a property and you have a significant other that shares that with you, if something was to happen to you, life insurance, for example, would pay out for the mortgage, that big payment that you have with a property, and it would pay that off to help obviously relieve any financial burdens from that you would have to take on once a partner has passed. Some people, you know, if they haven't got a significant other and have a house, they don't feel that they need it, but it will pay a big lump sum should anything obviously more like someone passing away. So definitely is another one to consider. And as a bolt on, that's what they call it, a bolt-on to life insurance, you can get critical illness cover for maybe like £1 extra per month to what you're paying. And what that does is the critical illness cover will pay out if you are diagnosed with a critical illness such as cancer, coronary heart disease, you have a heart attack, something that limits your life expectancy. It can pay that lump sum out to you instead as as money that will help cover a better standard of life for the time that you have left, or pay for like a cruise or something that you might want to go on in, you know. So you can get critical illness cover on its own, but it is cheaper usually to get it as a bolt-on with something like life insurance. And you also have, which isn't on here, private medical insurance, which is something if you are going off on your own, is quite handy to have because it helps. So for instance, I woke up one day, I think it wasn't that long ago, about five months ago, and I just I couldn't move. I was in terrible pain and I had a slipped disc in my neck. But I was literally seeing a specialist within a day. I had the MRI scans. I had a surgeon that said he would operate if needed. And that was all literally done within a week because my private medical insurance paid for it. So it's very handy to have a look at the prices for that if you are thinking of going off on your own. So if something was to happen, you could get back to work quicker. Done.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ruth. And quick question. So obviously if some people are going through like this transition period, it might be that they're cutting things back. And again,
Yep.
everyone's different. Just reiterating the priority out of these three for you.
For me, income protection insurance, toss up between life insurance and private medical insurance, because it helps you get back to work quicker with private medical insurance. But yeah, if you have a property, I'd probably say life insurance to help cover your significant other, and then private medical insurance, and then critical illness cover.
Amazing. And this again is testament to working with someone like you, Ruth, to figure out, same as we would do, doing a consultation with one of our patients, figure out the individualities and what is affordable, what's not, and what your risk level is as well. And I'll share in just a second one of the offerings that we have by VetU in a collaboration that we did recently off the back of conversations that we've had with the community. But when we were looking at those 3 stages and we we're talking about the fact there's no new normal, it's so interesting that actually all of them have these commonalities of really knowing where you're up to, knowing what's coming in and what's going out, knowing what you could change, using your support systems, knowing everything you're entitled to, and keeping up to date with your policies. And that's kind of the same regardless of where we're at. If they become habits and you've got someone like Ruth on board who can help give those nudges as well, they're all things that set us up for success. And we see that through VetU with the people that we talk to all the time. So I'm not going to go into this a huge amount here because I realize that right now we are 10 minutes over and everyone has lots of things that they've got to get on with this evening. But we really wanted to highlight off the back of conversations we'd had with the community about affordability and creating those buffers and protections. Home Protector is like an entry level offer that we've got that will cover a time limited period of your mortgage or your rent, and you can add a little bit extra on top of that as well. That is lower investment. You get the option for 24-hour GP virtual appointments as well. It is really worth looking at. There is a lot of information, but an amazing video. I'd really implore you to go and have a look at that and see that as an option. That is not a replacement for income protection, but it's well worth going and looking at as something if you're really starting out and the budget's lower. So go check that out. Lots of information on it. Ebony's put a link in the chat so you can go and look at Home Protector. And yeah, that would cover mortgage or rent if you were ill, as you can see on here as well. So have a look at the video. But I'm going to hand to Ruth. Ruth, everybody that's listening to this right now might be thinking, oh my gosh, if I need some help with this and I need a financial advisor, do I have to have a whole heap of money?
No!
How do I get this?
No,
What
no,
helps?
no. Literally, any initial chats are completely free. So you just literally pick up the phone, talk to me about your personal circumstances, what's going on. It's all completely confidential, and I can give you kind of my top level views of what's happening and help guide you in the right direction. There's no tie-in, there's nothing coming. It's literally just a bit of advice, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of, because what I told you about my story of not getting the advice that I needed at the time, it gives me a lot of enjoyment to be able to help others so that they never have to go through that, to find out what handy tax saving tips that they could have. And this is pretty much what is involved in my day-to-day role. I pretty much do all of this. I help coach people through getting that money mindset, bit of a talk to them about the past and what's kind of happened. I don't want people to beat themselves up if they've got a bit of debt or something. It's about making that change and creating healthy habits. People that are going through divorces, it's all kinds, event planners, people that are planning, weddings, career breaks. Yeah, there's so much involved in it, and I pretty much do all of that in a day with being an independent financial advisor.
And we know you've helped so many people in the profession. There are hundreds and hundreds of vets, vet nurses, client care team members, practice managers, clinical, non-clinical staff that have had the pleasure of having Ruth's advice as well. And I know she's very kind with her time to the community. And just before I hand back to Ebony, I'm just pulling out of the chat as well. Liz has made a very good point that VetLife does have support as well if you find yourself in significant financial hardship, you don't know where to turn. I think it's an amazing thing amongst our profession that VetLife is there as a resource as well. Don't forget that exists. And I know that was more recently that vet nurses were able to access that as well. So remember that that is there. Ebony, I'm going to hand back to you, but please do have a look. If anyone wants to book in a free initial chat with Ruth, all the details are on the link below. You can pick yourself a time, take action, regardless of where you're up to. She'll be able to help you figure out that next step. Ebony.
Yeah, so if you've got any questions, then do pop them in. And if not, then this is our email. So hello@vetu.co.uk, and we can try and answer your question. hook you up with Ruth or other service providers that we have, depending on your specific concern or opportunity. And just make sure as well to follow us on social. And if you want to grab that financial health checker, which regardless of whatever talk we do is always the baseline foundation of really good step to take, which I still have to finish mine for last year actually to complete my budget for 2025, but I'm halfway through. Then it's a really good thing to do as well, and to add that, you know, date in your diary every month or every quarter just to review and check back. And a huge thank you as well to Veterinary Women, who we're doing this in collaboration with. And every quarter we've been doing these series, and the next one is about investing in your health, financial strategies for wellness and insurance. So that one slide that we just spent a couple of moments on, we can delve a bit deeper there into things that can help you. And as you're on this call, you can watch back all the replays as well. And do also check out Inspired Vet as well, their wonderful ebook, because we've got some really good resources there from Katie, not only on imposter syndrome and confidence, but also on some financial tips and tricks. And Ruth has also done a really good article, which I'll also put in the email, about transitions and considerations for women in the profession, and some financial advice there. So look, you are not alone. There's plenty of support out there. And I think for those of us on the call live, I think it really helps with accountability and to take actual steps forward. If you just share in the chat, what's the one thing you're going to do as a result of this session? It could be big, it could be small, but what's the one thing you're going to do as a result of this session to help you with your transitions that you are either preparing for, you're during, or you're navigating that new normal?
I was going to suggest we come to our panel to share what they're going to do, and Liz has beaten me to it, but unmute, Liz. What is going to be your next step?
Right. I've just taken a bite of chocolate. That time of night. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do the financial planner. We've actually got a house extension planned for this year. And we definitely need to budget around that. So kind of knowing where I can cut back so that we can invest in getting the extension done is like super important for this year.
I love that. And that's so much like comes back to that discussion around the prep stage, doesn't it? As to like, I've got awareness of where things can be pulled back or ramped up and what that looks like. And Fee, what's your action off the back of this?
I probably will. It's re-motivated me to do a bit more self-learning, I think, to see what else I can add on to the toolbox to help drive Companion forward this year. So I think that's probably what I do, to see what else we can add in and how we can continue to grow and expand.
Love that. And have you got any top tips for everyone listening on where you found those courses over the years, Fee? Like where were your go-to spots for anyone else wanting to upskill and up level?
I was super fortunate. A good friend of mine actually who was learning to trade years ago, and it was just from him doing that I thought, that looks cool, I'm going to go and do that. So I did that course first, and off the back of the people I met through that, I started doing the business mastermind courses. And it's how life is, isn't it? You do one thing, and that just organically leads on to the next thing. And I think it's just as I started to learn more and more, and as that network of people outside of my little vet network grew, that I could find more opportunities. There are just so many. I think it's I don't think it's my place to say which people I've gone and learnt with, but I think there are so many free, obviously paid ones, but there are free resources as well where you can start to figure out gaps in your knowledge to start building that base up, and then you can always, if you find you have a passion for it, you can go on from there.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I can see Liz has got a hand up as well.
Just briefly, I found meetups really good for that. They do virtual and in-person ones. So I started upskilling in PR and marketing, but they do everything from different languages to hobby courses and things. And most of those are free. So and great for kind of community and networking without too much pressure. So I can pop the link in because I found those really helpful.
Amazing. I love that that links into what Fee was saying as well about the people that you meet, that you end up being amongst, and then what that leads on to as well. And that was a big part of our discussion yesterday as well, wasn't it, Ebony, of starting to have those conversations and gather insights and then see what that means to you, and then have more conversations and more insights from there as well. So awesome. And Ruth, practicing what you preach all the time, what is your action?
Yeah, I put it in there actually, talking about it. I need to go and revisit my financial questionnaire. Obviously, with everything that's kind of gone on in the last month or so, and then, yeah, find out where I'm up to and my kind of savings that I can make.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And yeah, it's great to know that that's still something that we keep doing forever, regardless of how many financial expertise and qualifications that we've got. We still keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on. Have we had any more questions come through? Ebs, has anyone got any questions? We'd love to know, like, you are 42% more likely to hit your goals if you write them down. So tell us what you're going to take action on as we wrap up. And then it's written and it's in stone and we know we're going to do it. Otherwise, drop your questions. And yeah, we've loved this. Thank you so much to our panel. Thank you so much to Veterinary Woman, to Ruth, for all of you for being on here as well. How are we doing, Ebony? Any more questions?
No more questions at this time, but I think there's probably lots of food for thought. But yeah, do drop us a line. Don't sit there thinking, oh, I feel embarrassed or I don't know how to phrase it. Just if you start it, we can curate it and help you kind of get what you need. So yeah, if you don't want to share now, then just make sure that you do drop us a line and email us, or reach out to Ruth, reach out to in the communities. There's so much great lived experience, support and hindsight in all of these communities, such as WellVet, Vet Mums, VSGD, VetU, etc. So and Veterinary Women. So do make sure that you do join in the conversation.
Definitely. Someone else has probably been at a similar stage at some point, and we'll have some insights and some wisdom. And again, as well, you've got awesome people like Ruth who are happy to give you those insights, because she's been there, as she said, she'd been there where she felt like nobody wanted to help her and actually didn't want anyone to be in that position. So we've got some messages that we're going to thank you all. Ruth, I will be in touch. Incredible. Awesome.
Fantastic.
I'm so proud of anyone that takes that step, not, just to go, okay, I'm ready to deal with this, and I'm ready to just find out what I can do. It'd be a pleasure to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We have loved spending the time with you. If you're catching up on the recording, everything still applies. Alongside that recording, you'll have all the links to book in with Ruth, to be able to visit any of those things that our amazing panel have referenced, to look at anything that was going on in the chat as well. And yeah, really celebrating those of you that are taking action. Thank you for being here with us this evening, and well done. Thanks, everyone.